Thank you so much and welcome everyone to today's session. Bearing in mind of time, I know you're very busy and we have a wonderful group of speakers from Oracle Technologies and Keysight Technologies as well. But do not let the word technology make you feel fearful. It's a very interesting session and we're actually going to discuss about how SMEs can actually build and manage high-performing teams amidst the pandemic. As you realize now, as an entrepreneur, that you need a team to build your vision and to scale your business to the next level. And so understanding that key critical component, E4Impact liaised with one of its partners, which is Oracle for Startups, to actually bring you this session. And the fact that we have people across another continent, it just makes it more richer, and even using relevant examples that we can actually benchmark and learn from. So without further ado, let me just do a quick intro of who E4Impact is, as some of you may, it's actually the first time you're interacting with us. Just let me know if you can see my screen.
We can see it, Mercy.
Okay, wonderful. Yes, so who is E4Impact? E4Impact is an initiative that was launched in 2010 by the Altis Graduate School of Business and Society of the Catholic University of Milan in Italy. And our main objective is to train impact entrepreneurs in the developing world in order to support their startup and growth of their businesses. The three main goals that we do have is, one, to train and coach a new generation of impact entrepreneurs in Africa and also the Middle East. The second one is to support partner universities to become the leading voice for impact entrepreneurship in their country. So how E4Impact's model works is that we have a presence in Italy, and what we do is we partner with a local African university in specific countries to deliver the same MBA program in impact entrepreneurship, as well as other diverse programs that I'll talk about later on. The other third goal for us is to develop partnerships and market relations between companies in Italy and Europe, and also between Africa and the Middle East. So far, our reach is in 17 African countries with 4 agreements in the pipeline and 7 countries in development. Having hubs across the entire continent, it ensures that every entrepreneur in whatever country you're in, you're able to access services and support from E4Impact and its diverse partners. In terms of our portfolio of services that we offer, we started in 2010 with the executive blended MBA program in impact entrepreneurship, but that has given us an opportunity to penetrate the country's ecosystem. For example, in Kenya, we work with the Tangaza University College, as well as also Moi University in Eldoret. And the aim is actually to deliver the same quality of MBA that you actually get in Catholic University of Milan. You actually get it in a local, in your own local country with local examples, and also the context is catered for. The second one is that we also offer short courses in impact entrepreneurship that you can actually take. The third one is that we have an E4Impact Entrepreneurship Center, and I'll talk a bit about that one. And the other one is that we do multilateral projects, working with different development partners and donors to actually support entrepreneurs across specific value chains. So for example, dairy, mango, coffee, horticulture, amongst others. The other one is that we do offer international services. So for example, because our office is actually, our headquarters is in Milan in Italy. So we're actually able to penetrate the European markets or ecosystem in terms of investors, in terms of buyers or suppliers. And actually we give those contacts to our entrepreneurs within the different African countries, just to help them to support them with their business operations and also scale up. The third one that I wanted to talk about was the E4Impact Entrepreneurship Center, which is now where it's based in Karen, and I think most of you you've taken some of our programs. So it's actually we offer incubation and acceleration for entrepreneurs who are either ideating, or are either at prototype stage, or also who are at growth stage. What we offer to entrepreneurs is is a diverse package of services. We have training, we have regional presence and brand visibility, we give them investor linkages, we give them alumni support, we give them a pool of funds, because sometimes we find that there are philanthropists and also development partners who want to invest in entrepreneurs, so we actually support them in that. And then also we give them human resource support, so in case you're recruiting for a team member, we're actually able to support you on that. And then also we help with impact measurement and reporting. As you know, it's very important to document the positive impact that your business is doing within the community, so we actually support you on that. We offer mentorship and coaching. We offer satellite technologies for those companies that are entering into the climate smart sector. And then also we have office space. We have professional services that we provide, such as legal, accounting, finance, marketing, and also processes. And the final one is that we offer market linkages, not just within the Kenyan space, but also within Africa and internationally. So today we've and proud to really utilize one of the partnerships that we have with Oracle for Startups, as I mentioned, and we managed to bring a session to you that will have the following speakers. I'd like to introduce to you our first speaker, Balaji Rangachari. He's the Consulting Solutions Director at Oracle India. He's an IT professional with more than 2 decades of experience in sales and business development, helping customers solve business problems through IT solutions by identifying the right technology and people. With Oracle Corporation for more than a decade in various roles and currently responsible for the technology solutions and services, sales and development. He loves to talk technology and be abreast of the latest developments. And he also loves mentoring, philanthropy, social service, spirituality, and music. Let's see. And the second speaker for today is Sachin Shimoga. He's the lead information architect at Keysight Technologies. He has over 21 years of experience as an information champion with a focus on project management, content management, team management, user research, structured authoring, and mentoring. Currently and previous experiences include Keysight Technologies, Accenture, Honeywell, Computer Sciences Corporation, Alcatel-Lucent, and Ericsson. He is responsible for the setup of centers of excellence for the knowledge management function in India, creating a high-performance team and driving the culture of innovation. He currently mentors 2 startups. One of them is Wandex Network PVT Limited and LogoPorium, primarily in the personalized context space. And his LinkedIn profile is there. So we'll definitely share their contacts with you. And if you have any questions from my own presentation before, please do put them in the chat. So I'd like to hear and hand over to our wonderful speaker, Balaji. I think I can hand it over to you now. Balaji, thank you and welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Marcy. I hope everybody is able to see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Good morning to all of you. This is Balaji Rangachari with more than about a couple of decades of experience in the IT, networking, and telecom space. Don't worry, I will not be talking too much of technology. I understand from Mercy a bit of the background of the audience here. I will try to contextualize as much as possible. So before I get into the presentation and today's topic, I would like to set the expectation that we'll be having a sort of a division in the speaker presentations. I'll be talking more in the conceptual level, and my colleague Sachin will be talking how the concepts are being applied in the startup world. That is the way we have structured it, so that the reason why we did that is most of us would be doing things practically, but there are science behind it, which will enhance that whatever we are doing today, right? So if we know the science behind it, I think we will be able to excel in what we're doing. So without much ado, I would first start with a success story, which is actually a very nimble startup in India called Flipkart. And they actually had just two founders. 1 minute, this one is, yeah. They had two founders, Sachin and Vinny Bansal. One of them is ex-Amazon, right? And this startup was started to just sell books over the internet. The reason why they started this is one of the founders wanted a book for his child, which he actually couldn't get anywhere, but it was available somewhere in the US, and that too through Amazon. So he couldn't get that book in time. So he thought, why not we start a service in Bangalore. Bangalore is in India. So he actually started, or rather these two gentlemen discussed and started this initiative way back in 2007 with just about $8,000 of capital, right? And this company was in a time when smartphones were coming into the scene in India. It was proliferating, and Indians started to shop via the internet. That is the time they entered this market. It's actually a two-man mission, which actually grew into a big commerce platform, and that gave a run for the money to Amazon itself. Today, if you talk about the top two e-commerce engine in India, one of them is Flipkart, the other is Amazon. These are the two companies which are actually visited by many of the Indians here. And they have they just started with books, and then they managed to now add 70 million products. And this company is now, over a period of time, they acquired their competition like Myntra, which was focusing only on fashion. Basically, the clothes and accessories, and Jabong is more electronics. So they started acquiring these companies in the last so many years, and they actually became almost like 50-50 to Amazon. But today, what has happened is Walmart has actually acquired them. So that is, and it is not a small money. What started off with $8,000, they sold their company to Amazon for a 77% stake for $16 billion. Will you believe this? So, and that too in just about 14 years of time, right? Now, similar stories I have from India. Unfortunately, we have a lot of examples from India because we know about them, and we thought we will bring them to you because it will actually give a lot of thought process to you on why we are saying what we are saying today in the session. So if you look at some of the other startups here, like for example, Ola Cabs, you would have heard about Uber, which is basically taxi hiring service, right? So they started in India about, I think, 7 or 8 years back. And today they are the biggest competition for Uber. And they also did what Flipkart did to Myntra. Myntra is here. So they also acquired a company called Taxi for Sure. Like that, they have become the number, I would say, almost equal to Uber now today. Similarly, Swiggy is a food service e-commerce engine. Likewise, Book My Show is more around cinema and events and stuff like that. So a lot of these companies have grown from just about 1 or 2 founders or maybe a team of 4. But what is common among them, right? When me and Sachin analyzed this for this session, what we found is very interesting, okay? The companies had a very clear vision, right? When they started the startup, they had one particular objective to solve some problem. But what also happened is they were able to identify the bottlenecks of their vision in the fastest manner, and then course correct it in the fastest manner. And then once they did that, they had a very clear vision of what they want to achieve. And then the other important aspect is teamwork. So they built a team which actually catapulted them into these kind of success stories. And they were able to leverage each team member's strengths. Now, how do we leverage each team member's strength? We will see in the coming slides. Now, that is the mantra or the secret to their successes. And this is a common thread. Now, if I just take an example of Flipkart, right? You had two co-founders, Sachin and Binny. Now, Sachin is the guy who dreams for the company and who has a vision for the company. He formulates the vision, he formulates the strategy. But the execution part, he gives it to Binny because Binny has that strength. So what has happened is they both leveraged each other's strength. That is the secret sauce for this kind of companies. And they actually made Flipkart just in 2 years a profitable company, which is unheard of at that point in time when they started, especially these when the dot-com bubble came up and when people were very wary of IT companies or anything to do with internet. These guys proved to the world that it can be profitable if run properly, right? Now, with this setup of success story, I will now get into the concepts, right? What is a team? A team is basically a small number of people with varied different strengths or skills and who are committed to a common goal. That is what a team is. It's basically to achieve together, right? And to achieve more. That is the formation of the definition of a team. Now, what are the factors? I don't know if I'm going too fast. Please stop me.
You're doing well. Yeah, you're doing good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So what are the factors, right, which drives this kind of a team-based organization? Now, if you look at in today's world, be it any type of industry, in your own food and agricultural business, which I heard from Mercy is most of you are, who is your customer? And the customer will demand certain things. How do I satisfy him, right? And how do I produce quality so that he gets satisfied? So that is getting more focus as more and more people are becoming knowledgeable. They demand more, right? They demand quality, they demand better service, and they demand better experience what they undergo, right? That is what is driving a team-based organization. Now, we actually are shifting from a very homogeneous structural organization, being like, for example, Oracle or any big organization used to have a very hierarchical organization, right? They will have somebody called executive vice president, then they will have a team under them, a lot of managers, middle management, then the lower management. Now, all that is actually being questioned and disturbed or disrupted. Now, the reason for that is because of these kind of factors which are being coming from their own customers. The customers need, customer need also. For example, you are supplying to a hotel, the agri products, right? Now, the hotel customers are demanding organic produce. I think that is one of the key things, right? So how do I satisfy my customer, which is a hotel, and that hotel, how do I help them to satisfy their customers? So that should be the way the entrepreneurship community also need to think. And that is driving team-based organizations. And that is also, in fact, in our own organizations, we face this problem. And we are now driving a lot of team formation. Within a group, we form teams to address certain problems which we face in the market. So you need to continuously re-engineer what you have thought a while ago. And this is changing from year on year to quarter on quarter to month on month. Now it is coming to almost, in certain industry, it is almost like a week to week or even day to day, for example, in these kind of pandemic times, right? Now you will be seeing, we are already witnessing that hotels are being changed to hospitals. How fast can I make the change, right? So that I can at least benefit from the real estate what I want today. Now we are seeing that kind of a transition. So how do I support this philosophy. These are some of the factors which actually call for a team-based organization. And this actually requires employee awareness, and a lot of recognitions and rewards need to be built into the team when you are actually forming these kind of teams. Now, but before getting into how do I form a team so that I actually have the success what I need, right? There are some key questions which we need to ask ourselves. As an entrepreneur, I need to ask certain questions to myself. What is the work which need to be performed, right? What is the task in hand? Have I clearly defined the goal which I want to achieve? And what should be the focus for the team? Say, for example, starting from now to the next 4 weeks, to the next 8 weeks, to the next 12 weeks, when I actually come with something, right? So all these questions which are there here, you need to answer them. Do I have answers for all this? If I don't have answers, we should have the answers before we get into the next steps. Now, I'm sure some of you have already done or rather have your startups running for the last 1 year or so, or a couple of years. So some of it may be answered, some of it may not be, maybe some are in work in progress. But once you've identified the tasks and these answers, then comes what are the kind of people whom I need for this to address or to work on these tasks? Who is ideally suited? Now, people is not available so easily with the right skills. But with those constraints in place, can I make the best use of the resource what I have, right? So I need to map the technical skills or the whatever that work skills which they bring into the table. There should be probably 1 or 3 aspects which you need to consider. One is the technical skill, the second is the soft skill, and third is their attitude and other soft skill aspect which you need to consider when you select the people for the particular job. So what or you also need to be aware is when you're forming a team, you need to understand what motivates the individual. When you're actually putting them in a particular team within your startup, you need to understand their motivation and what are their optimal levels. Now, this is a very difficult task. It is so easy to ask these questions, but it is very difficult, I understand, but it comes over a period of experience what we have. Now, once you have identified the people, you will then put a process or a procedure in place, a standard operating procedure for the team which you are forming, right? That is very, very crucial. And I will tell you the reason why I am saying this in a couple of slides from now. What are the rules of the group? What are the rules to be followed in terms of executing the task, in terms of information sharing, in terms of spoken words or in terms of non-spoken words? Is there any way where everybody shares their information in a common place so that it is easily available? One of the biggest stumbling block for a team is that not all information is available in one place for everybody else to be using. So how do I put a structure in place to address that kind of a problem, right? That is the reason why we are talking about process and procedures. In a startup kind of environment, it is mostly fluid at the start, but over a period of time, you need to actually come into this space, because when you are thinking for a long haul, when you're thinking over a horizon of say 5 to 10 years from now, where do I want to be? You need to start working from now. That is the reason why I put these kind of questions. But now once you've answered these questions, right, you also need to know what are the roles in that particular team, which is required for addressing those tasks. When I say roles, it is not with respect to the task, rather the technical aspect of things. It is more to do with something like who is a coordinator, because you need somebody who will coordinate the entire team, right? One who recognizes the strengths and maximizes the potential. So there are different roles played by each one of them, or rather the kind of roles. what we need to do as entrepreneur is basically to identify the individual, where does he fit in, right? For example, there will be one person who doesn't speak much, right? But he'll be good in executing things. Like, for example, there will be person, if you give him any job, he will actually organize things. He will send emails to the team members, right on time, follow up with them to bring them onto the table. All that he will do. So can we slot him in as a coordinator or as a implementer? Once we know this, these are the what this is from a research where they have bucketed each individual's capabilities, which they can demonstrate when they are working in a team. Now, possibly in a startup kind of environment, some people will have to be performing 3 or 4 different roles in a startup, right? For probably the co-founders or the founders might be doing the coordinator role as well as the driver and a monitor role. And then there will be some people who will be working purely as an implementer role. And there will be somebody external to the organization who are basically families and friends of you who are providing support to you, right? Who may not be part of the official startup, but still they are doing some support roles for you. So you need to identify the roles played. Once you identify the roles, right, then comes how do I form the stages. Now, anyhow, we are sharing. I'm not getting into each one of them to explain what are these. It's self-explanatory. Once we identify these roles and the people, you need to map the people so that you clearly know who will do what kind of a role. Once you do that, then there are different stages of formation of a team. There is a forming stage, which is the initial stage of the team formation, which is basically you need to give a clear direction as to why this team is formed, right? What is the purpose of this team? And very clear goals should be told to them, and you need to have a buy-in from the team. That needs to be ingrained into the entire team which is formed. And once you have done that, you also tell them this is the structure and these are the roles which each one of you will play. And this is how, so you set the ground rule. That is the formation of the team, right? Once you have formed the team, then comes your storming stage. Now, storming stage is very interesting because this is almost like the honeymoon period of the team is over and you get into the real when the rubber hits the road. That is when you will have the team members revisiting the purpose and the objective of the team and making some adjustments so that they can actually get to the tasks which will take them to the end objective. But this is also the time when they will get through conflicts or they will get into conflicts. So we need to help them address some of those conflicts. I'm sure some of you would have already experienced it in your startups, but this is an important stage when you need to address those conflicts. And comes the norming stage, where you will focus on the work progress. Whatever is the work which is identified, the task identified, you will focus on that. Where is it progressing? Is it progressing really well to the expectation, right? And you also allow the team to take responsibility of that progress so that they also feel that they are given the, they understand the responsibility and work towards that progress. So that is the it's almost like a normalization stage. So once you have crossed this stage is when you monitor the performance, the output of this particular team. Now there will be feedbacks coming based on the performance metrics what you have given them. And once you see some progress, for example, if you have told them that I need the produce to be so much of say tons or whatever metric you have given them, but it is only coming to say 60% of that. Now probably there is a feedback which is coming and you need to course correct them, give them the authority to take some decisions so that they also feel empowered and they will do some course correction to achieve that number. So that is the performance stage. Then once these are the 4 different stages. Now, this is a closed loop kind of a thing where once this team achieves its goal, now generally a team is formed for a shorter duration, but in a startup kind of a firm, probably that might be 1 year to 2 year period, because that is the time when startup also grows. Once that objective is met, then probably they will all disband, and probably they will take up very focused departmental work, right? So that is also something which I will let you know during the course of this presentation, how we need to think big and think for the future in terms of how do I take this organization for the next 5 years or 10 years. And that is when this team formation, what you lay the foundation, will actually help. Now, you see this cycle, right? Assume this cycle to be a team. Now, are the parts of the cycle are all important? Probably we will take a poll for all the participants here. Are all the parts important to the cycle? Mercy, can you run the poll? Mercy?
Yes, sorry about that. Just give me 1 second.
Sure.
But actually, maybe as I'm launching the poll, there's a comment on the chat by Kathleen. She would add a meta foundation question. What is the purpose of the organization that is best delivered by teams? And how is that purpose sustained by the team?
So can we take all these questions in the Q&A, or
that's okay? Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
Just mentioning that as additional.
Okay, probably till the time you sort it, we can probably do this. Okay. Great questions. I would add a meta foundation. What is the purpose of the organization that is best delivered by team? Kathleen, how is that purpose? And then to ensure the answers to the other 3 categories keep going back through the purpose question. Kathleen, can you be, if you can actually open your mic and explain this question, it will help.
Sure, Balaji, thank you for asking. So I thought those were really good questions. What I was just thinking is that if, as entrepreneurs, it's always, before we even start looking at teams and setting it up, and you're giving really good examples of how to set up teams, it's really important to understand what's the purpose of what you're doing.
Yeah, correct. Absolutely.
So that's, I was just saying, I would take all those great questions, and they are great, and everyone's going to be in a different place. But if I can always feed it back through like a feedback loop through that purpose. Like, is the team in service of the purpose? So that I can also look at those stages you just showed us, the Tuckman model, and ensure that I'm aligned. When things get out of whack, is it because of the purpose and a lack of understanding, or is it something else? That's all I was suggesting.
Okay, yeah, probably the lack of understanding is what we see in many of the failures which we have actually learned, that the vision, whatever is given by the founder, is actually not percolated down to the people who are working for him. That is where the communication gap is, and they are not aligned to the vision or the purpose of that organization. That's what we have actually learned. You're absolutely right.
Great. Thanks so much for that. So the poll is now ready. Can I launch it?
Yeah, please. We'll take the other questions later. Yeah.
So with the poll, are all the parts important in a cycle? What are your thoughts? Yes, partially, or no?
Yeah, if you can all answer, it will help.
30 more seconds to get a few more responses. Great. I think we've all voted. Okay, so I'm ending the poll now. All right, I can see some of you are still voting. 10 more seconds. What do you think? Don't overthink it. Just select an answer that you think is right.
Concept to understand. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, great. So I'll end. We have done 13. We have 13 responses. That can be a good sample. Let me share. I'm sharing the results. Can you see the results?
Yeah, 13%. Sorry, 77% is saying yes. Wow. Okay, and 8% is saying no, and partially. Great. Thanks, Mercy, for conducting the poll. Actually, it's a very interesting question. Not many people, I would have actually answered yes, the same way like the 77%, but really speaking, the answer is no, right? And there is a reason for that. The reason is very simple. There are something which are critical to the task of cycling. What is cycling? Cycling is basically to take you, it's basically a transportation vehicle, right? So it has to take you from one place to the other. Now, for doing that task, there are only certain parts which are critical. Now, if you take, for example, the wheel, the chain, the pedal, the handlebar which steers, these are critical, right? But there is one other important part which is not so critical, but still it is playing a very important part, which is the support, the frame. Without this frame support, all these parts cannot work together, right? So that is the reason why we are saying only some parts are critical, but some of them are actually supporting. And for example, the bell, right? It's actually not a very critical part. Now, why am I bringing this, right? The reason is in a team, there are task functions which we normally focus, right, to meet the end objective or the purpose of forming the team. We always focus on that aspect, which are critical to achieving the objective. Like, for example, you will put a timeline to the meeting the deliverables and monitoring the KPIs or monitoring the metrics, and then you will do a proper planning how to execute things. But other important aspect, which is more around the support function, like the frame of the cycle, right, which is very key, which is where the team actually will be in coherence to each other, the team members. Unless you have addressed these things, like for example, trust. Unless I have the trust with the other team members, I won't be sharing a lot of information, what is required for the team, right? One of the biggest stumbling block, which you will see in the next slide, is around sharing information, which is a big challenge in a team. The reason for that is trust. So building trust is very, very important. And that will actually determine whether the team is functioning at its best, right? So other way of addressing support function is to celebrate the achievements of the team or celebrating birthdays, which will basically motivate. So you need a lot of these support functions, which are very, very critical in the team formation. That is the reason I brought this aspect. And the feedback mechanism. Now, the feedback can be critical, the feedback can be positive, but there are mechanisms to address such feedbacks also, because some people may not take negative feedback in the right way, and that will affect the team performance. So you need to be very careful. But okay, we are not addressing the how to handle such situations here for paucity of time, but these are what the message very clearly is, that we need to address the soft support functions or soft skills of the people or the team members who are working for you. That's very, very key. This is what I was coming to, which is the challenges associated. Now, does the team-based organization always mean success? Probably no, right? The reason there are enough reasons why a team-based organizations or a team will not be as effective, like what you see in sports or in even organization. What are the reasons? There are at least 4 or 5 which I have captured here. One of the important thing is resistance to change. Like, for example, you might have worked in an organization as an individual contributor, not part of some team. When you are suddenly put in a team, you may not work what is expected out of you in a team kind of a scenario. You might not have that comfort feeling. Maybe you would not have expressed this when you're with your colleagues or with your bosses who has put you in that place, and then that will actually be detrimental to the team or to meet the objectives. So the resistance to change is one of the big challenge. And the other important challenge which we see is the fear of blame. So in a team, what will happen is you will, if there is a failure doesn't have any, what do you call, mother, right? Success has many mothers. So the fear of blaming is always a deterrent to the formation of a team. Now, this is something which we need to set it right when we are setting the team. Very clear articulation of that this is a team-based activity and this team will own success or failure equally. That expectation setting has to be made. And the other important thing which we see is the limited skills and abilities of the team members. Some team members will be pretty good in what do you call being extrovert, right? That's why the team roles which I showed you is important. You need to identify what they are good at, so that that person will actually do his best in what he is identified for. If he is actually put in a team without identifying what role he can play, he will find it difficult, because when the other person is actually doing certain work, he might feel inferior. So that inferiority complex should not sit inside his mind, which will affect his performance. So that is another aspect. The other most important aspect is pay distribution. When you are actually a team, how do I give them the compensation? Now, this is a science by itself. You need to find mechanisms in doing that. There are companies like ourselves where we are finding it pretty difficult. I know how it is even more difficult in a startup scenario, but these are the challenges which I thought I should bring it. And with that, I think I will end the concepts here, and we will come back and take the questions posted in chat in the Q&A, so that we'll finish this session, the slides, and then we'll take it back to that. Right? So, I'll now invite Sachin basically Sachin will bring the practical aspect of these concepts, because he's mentoring 2 startups. So welcome, Sachin.
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be a part of this forum, and thank you, Balaji and Mercy, for giving me this opportunity. So before I proceed, Mercy, I just wanted to check how much time do we have?
Perhaps you can do it within 15 minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, I think I took a long time.
So, okay, so for those of you who watch Formula One racing, you may think that it is an individual sport, as the driver gets most of the attention. However, F1 racing is a team sport even during the race itself. This because the crucial part of the race strategy is the pit stop, as you can see in this slide. And a rapid pit stop can be the difference between winning or losing the race. And so what are some of the lessons that we can learn from these F1 pit stops? Firstly, each member of the team has an absolutely clear idea of their function and what the impact of it is. There's no one job that's better than the other. Excellence is the only objective when it comes to execution. There are no individuals, only team players. So everybody is specialized in their respective tasks, but together they have to function in small groups, to excel and to, make the solutions possible. Secondly, there is communication. Everyone listens to each other, as the team has to work in perfect harmony. Thirdly, there is immense trust amongst the team members, that each person knows what their job is and does their job properly. For example, the front jackman who's standing right at the front, he has to stand in front of the incoming car even when the car is approaching the pit lane at 80 kilometers per hour. So he has to trust the skills of the driver to stop right in front of him. The pitch top shows how incredible teamwork comes together, in a short period of time. So can we go to the next slide, please, Balaji? I'll now quickly talk about the two startups that I'm mentoring. The first one, is for a company called as Wandex Network Private Limited. The word Wandex comes from wonderful experiences. And this app, which is called as Tidbits, it has the task of providing happy experiences to customers and to make the customers realize the complete potential of any product or service that they can buy either online or offline. So this app Tidbits, it looks to fill this engagement gap that's there currently between the vendors and the customers by providing personalized content and seamless happy experiences so the customers can enjoy the product that they buy for its lifetime. So right now, I mean, if you are using Amazon or any other online store, or even if you buy certain goods through a brick and mortar store, usually your experience ends when you buy the product from there, right? So this particular app will actually connect you with the vendor in numerous ways in terms of trying to use the product to its fullest potential. So if you can go on to the next slide, Balaji. So this is how the user experience or the user interface looks like. And for any product that you buy, you'll see all the relevant and curated content regarding the product personalized for you so that it becomes a one-stop shop for you to build your experience around that product. So if it's an automobile that we are talking about, then the various documentation surrounding that, its service history, its battery status, its wheel status, any accessories that you want to buy. If you want to check its service history, when's the next service coming up and things like that. So all of that information can come, on the main screen of your product page, right? So this is one product where I'm mentoring. The second one, for which I do not have a slide, but I'll quickly talk through that. It's called as LogoPorium, which aims to connect vendors from tier 2 and tier 3 cities in India predominantly to prospective customers. So it works on the concept of merchandising and corporate gifting. So let's say if a customer needs 2,000 t-shirts for their employees at a certain city, they can place their orders on the LogoPorium website, and the app will help the customers connect with the vendors that can provide the required merchandise at the best price. So we wanted to support the smaller vendors in smaller towns and cities. So we ensure that we handpick them from such places to bring them on to the global marketplace. Okay, so with respect to the current slide here, and in both the above startups, there were big challenges. And one of the questions that always came was, how do we form a team? The initial setup costs are probably too much for us to be able to deep dive and to start creating a team from scratch, right? There are a lot of costs involved. There is infrastructure involved, a lot of regulatory policies involved, right? So how do we go about quickly scaling up the team size? So we thought, why not outsource the development of the app and the website to a partner or a third party who has the required resources, the required skill sets, and who could help us go to the market rapidly. So keeping that as our strategy, we insisted in having a model which we would like to call as an agile model, where we have self-organizing teams, and the teams work on definitive features, feature sets in short bursts of 1 to 4 weeks. So if we go on to the next slide, Balaji. Yeah, so these self-organizing teams, they work in short bursts of 1 to 4 weeks, which are typically called as sprints. And all the requirements for that particular product or a feature set are captured in a document called as the product backlog. And typically an agile team comprises of 9 members, where each team member brings a unique skill to the team, and together this team specializes in identifying and releasing new features or products to the market in short intervals of time continually, right? So it's not like a waterfall model where firstly the requirements are captured, then the development is done, then the product is manufactured, tested, rolled out to the market, right? So it's not sequential. everything happens together and the product goes to the customer much faster, so that the market response could be appreciated, feedback could be sought, and the feedback loop gets generated immediately to try and improve the entire cycle. Okay, so if you can go on to the next slide, Balaji. So graphically, this agile process could be represented, like this. And any new feature that gets added goes to the product backlog, and from there it moves to the sprint backlog. Teams take up tasks from the sprint backlog, picking up higher priority items first, and continually work on each incremental feature on a periodic basis for each sprint. So at the end of each sprint, you have a potentially shippable product, and you can test out the market response for your product. The things that you learn in each sprint, the areas of improvement are introspected at the end of each sprint, and you can learn from those mistakes to ensure that you do not repeat them in future sprints. So it's a continual learning process, and teams are so self-organized that you can easily form and break them and bring people with varied skill sets together at any point of time to do the required tasks. So if we go on to the next slide, Balaji. Yeah, so this is called as the Carol Dweck growth mindset model. Each one of us falls into one of these categories. Individuals with a growth mindset believe that skills are cultivated and there is no such thing as natural talent. Whereas individuals with a fixed mindset believe that their failure is due to a limitation that they have. So they wouldn't be ready to take up things, that they are not aware of. So in short, the dichotomy is between individuals who have a binary interpretation of what is happening around them and those that have an adaptive interpretation. So the individuals that have an adaptive interpretation will actually actively enter the problem space. And those are the high performers, that come from behind, and they achieve their target, or they solve the process, issues that exists on their team. Whereas those with a yes, no, or a binary interpretation kind of a mindset or a fixed mindset will usually fail. So the key to success is ensuring that your team has an adaptive interpretation. So as one tip, I think we need to ensure that the term growth mindset is embedded in the vocabulary of our team, and it becomes a part of how your team approaches peer feedback and peer coaching. So over time, this will encourage problem solving behavior and adaptation so that the team can become self-directed. If you go on to the next slide. Yeah, this particular image, it's called as the Johari Window because it was formulated by two gentlemen by the name of Joseph and Harrington. So they combined it to call it as the Johari Window. In Google's project Aristotle, this particular project was run by Google, and the data was analyzed from thousands of employees across 180 global teams in an effort to identify the common denominator of high performance teams. So there were various parameters that were considered, such as manager effectiveness, autonomy, compensation, mastery of a skill, purpose. In spite of having so many parameters, the study struggled for months to identify what's the commonality, amongst the high performance teams. Eventually, the concept of psychological safety arose, which in practice describes a team culture where individuals are comfortable being authentic and do not fear embarrassment for speaking up. A concept that I would like to supplement alongside the findings of Project Aristotle is this particular Johari Window, which is a tool that enables group members to better understand their relationships with others. So in this particular window, as awareness of each quadrant increases in the group, so too does group trust, and it is easy to identify where a perception or awareness vacuum exists. Have you asked your colleague about her weekend hobbies? Do you know she lost a close friend recently? Have you shared feedback with her on how she uses ineffective language? Have you let her know you admire her rapport building skills, right? these are some ways how you can get to know an individual in your team. That's how you can progress, or the entire team can progress from quadrant to quadrant, so that eventually it reaches to a place where everyone knows everyone and the trust builds up. Okay, so if we go on to the next slide, Balaji. Okay, finally, this is one way of how you could actually, measure high performance teams. And this is one model. It's also called as the STAR model. It's also called as SCORE here. And if you see right at the top, where you have the cohesive strategy, team cohesion actually becomes the strength and extent of interpersonal connection existing among the members of a group. So it is this particular interpersonal bond that causes members to participate readily and remain motivated to accomplish the set goals. So there is, an attitude called as we-ness, W-E-N-E-S-S, we-ness. So if we have that, it's like everyone works for the team that they're responsible for. When roles and responsibilities are clearly defined, team members look beyond their own individual positions and learn to understand, respect, and value the unique contributions of one another. And they recognize that the overall success of the team is a function of shared responsibility and ownership. Respect to the O of the SCORE framework here, that's an open communication. It actually allows your employees to be more engaged and understand that what they do matters in the success of the business. Making sure that your employees understand the big picture and the part that they play in the success of the organization will help them understand why decisions are made and how those decisions impact them specifically and the company as a whole. And so effective communication always leads everyone to be on the same page, moving in the same direction toward the same goal. Right. If you compare your reaction, coming to the rapid response part. So if you compare your reaction and a small child's reaction to thunder, that you usually would ignore it, but a child may be anxious and seeks assurances from the nearest adult. So it's only human to fear the unknown. Confidence comes only with understanding. From long experience, you know that thunder is a natural phenomenon that cannot harm you. The child does not yet understand it. Right? So that is why an important step toward coping with change is to understand it, what is happening, why, and how. When you recognize the possibilities created by change, you're more prepared to exploit them. You'll find change as not something to fear, but as something to welcome and turn to your own advantage. Right? So one needs to be prepared to rapidly respond to environmental as well as macroeconomic changes. With regards to the effective leadership, the last part there. So a good team creates a good leader. And if you are into NBA championships, there was this Golden State Warriors. They were the runners-up in the 2016 NBA championship. And they are known for their star player and the most valued player called as Stephen Curry. Stephen is considered the best three-point shooter in the NBA. And popular perception is that his three-point spree usually gets the team its wins. But hidden within the statistics of the team is that another person called as Draymond Green has been equally effective, and both of them may not have been as successful if they were not ably assisted by Klay Thompson, Harrison Barnes, and Andrew Bogut, right? So there's another insight too that isn't in the perception arena. The same team wasn't as effective till it had Steve Kerr as coach, who actually made this individual brilliant players play as one unit. So you see it's both ways, great team inspires a great leader and a great leader in turn inspires a great team, right? So it's really both ways sometimes. So with that, I would like to hand it back to Balaji for a quick recap of what we spoke through today. Over to you, Balaji.
Thanks, Sachin. Just to recap, am I audible?
Yes, we can hear
Yes,
you.
you are. Maybe you can also do it within 1 minute.
Yeah, sure. So what we have seen is basically it's important that we have a vision, a proper vision, and embrace a feedback culture, which is important for you to know where you stand and course correct as required, and promote a very learning climate so that each of the team members don't feel inferior to the other. And so I think the most important thing is the entrepreneur should be self-aware of what he is doing, so that he can feel confident and instill the confidence in the team. That is the takeaway which I would put it across here. With that, I think we can move to the question and answer session. Over to you, Mercy.
Yes, thank you so much, Balaji and Sachin. I think you really captured all the concepts very well. And I really have nothing else to add, except I have 2 questions that did come in advance. And I can actually pose the first question to Sachin. If you're managing a remote, now with the pandemic, most people are actually working from home or working in different geographies. What are some of the strategies that an entrepreneur can actually use to manage the remote teams to ensure that they're still delivering at the same optimum level as they were in the office?
Yeah, I'll take that, Mercy. It's a good idea to decide how to evaluate remote employees and conduct regular appraisals. Even so, it's essential to find the right balance, because nobody likes to feel that they're controlled during their work, right? So typically we can measure 3 key performance indicators of a remote worker. The first one would be self-discipline, which is the capacity to work independently. Second one is effective communication, the ability to communicate efficiently with the team and clients. The third part is the learning skills, how's the capability or the ability of your team members to follow instructions and learn new things quickly. So we can observe these tasks that are completed and the quality with which they are done, instead of the time when which the resources would do it. So to evaluate the performance, one could always compare the results of 2 employees of the same grade. So I think the focus should be on quality and quantity instead of the timeliness. It's like, doesn't matter if a resource spends 8 hours in a day or some other resource gets the same job done in 4 or 5 hours, in the same day. And so pay close attention to the results. If you're measuring performance correctly in an office environment, there will be very little difference in how you actually evaluate a remote employee versus an office employee. Also have create clear goals and communicate expectations clearly. So when handing out tasks to individuals on a virtual team, it's important that you clearly express your expectations. Your explanation should include deadlines and specific details about the task itself. So it's probably almost the same things that you did at office that you need to do with remote employees, but just instill that kind of self-discipline and keep reinforcing the expectations and the goals. Yeah, back to you, Mercy.
Thanks, Sachin. And I think also we can add the element of empathy, because sometimes also when you're working from home, perhaps there are people who are managing multiple diverse activities as well. So thank you so much, Sachin, for that. Balaji, we had a question for you on how can a team or a founder or a co-founder actually build a high-performing team, yet they have minimal resources?
Yeah, so what we need to probably do is the co-founder has to take stock of what is his skill sets, which he has in his capacity. Once he is aware of what is his skills and what is required for the task to be achieved or for his goal to be achieved, he can then look for resources which is lacking. So find the competent people to handle the areas which he lacks or he or she lacks. And the other important thing is you should hire slow but fire fast. In fact, this is one of the mantras which a company called Zappos founder is using: hire slow, fire fast. Basically, the reason is, if you actually don't fire that incompetent person, the team actually gets down. So that is one of the key thing which hit my mind. And the other aspect is the personality trait which we have shared, the Johari Window concept. I think that if your entrepreneurs are able to imbibe that in for their team, the team will understand what is their traits, so that they can be better utilized in the roles what I told about, right? And the functions, whatever is the functions for achieving the minimum viability of what you're trying to produce, so that you get up on your feet and get your product on the market. I think these are some of the things. Because of your limited resource, you should put the best effort for the best buck which it can earn. So from that point of view, if you just answer those questions which I showed initially, that itself will give you a clear direction as to what should be done now, what should be done in the next 6 months, kind of a thing. I think that will give the answer for the high performance team.
And I think you actually answered very well. Hire slowly and fire fast. I love that.
Yeah, that's a nice thing, yeah, which I found.
And we actually never think of that as really affecting the culture of the startup organization, you know? Okay. So thank you so much. We are at 11, and I promise I will end in 10 minutes. Just give me 1 more minute just to say thank you and to wrap up. So to our speakers today, Balaji and Sachin, thank you so much for taking your time and sharing with us your wisdom. Sorry?
Thanks for the opportunity.
Oh, wonderful. Yes. And we'll definitely look forward to bringing you back in, because I think we also need to go deeper into building a lean and agile team. So we'll actually follow up on that after this webinar. But thank you so much for taking your time and just being our mentors today on the topic of HR and high-performing teams. To our wonderful entrepreneurs and guests who have just joined us, thank you so much for clicking on the link and registering and also taking time to come. I have just shared a link to a feedback form. If you could just take 5 minutes just to fill it in, so that we can also capture your feedback and any other topics that you want us to bring for you. We're happy to do so. Finally, I think you just left us with 2 great words that I can just want to reiterate before we close the session. The meaning of team is together, everyone achieves more. And the last one that you've just given us for hire slowly and fire fast. And I think also for Sachin, there's lots of outputs that you've actually given us. And the main one that I'm going to take away is embracing conflict as a path of growth. So as entrepreneurs, you should not be afraid to go into challenges or have those tough conversations with our team members, but we should see it as an opportunity for the organization or for the startup to actually grow. So I'm seeing lots of good comments over here on the chat. Thank you so much. Very informative session. The session was very rich. And with that, I say thank you so much, and we'll definitely send you the recording plus the slides for today, as well as update you on future events that come up.